All right, guys, so you should have at this point watched the Townsend Act video, which really is kind of one of the root causes of this Boston Massacre, especially that pushing and relocating soldiers closer to the coast, which means they're going to be kind of really concentrated there in Boston at the time. What you're going to do next is then watch the Ed puzzle about the Boston Massacre. It's a real quick introduction, kind of gives you a feeling of what happened that night. But just as with everything in history, there's, multiple sides to a story. And that's kind of what you're looking at. Historians have a general consensus on what happened this night, but there are definitely some conflicting eyewitness accounts that make us believe maybe there's a little bit more to it. And that's what you guys are going to be looking at here. So you guys are going to be looking at these 7 eyewitnesses to the Boston Massacre. That means these are primary sources. They were actually there. And you're going to be deciding whose fault it was, who actually caused this massacre to happen. And we say massacre, but it was only 5 people. I think when we think massacre, we think massacre, like so much death, even though it was a relatively small number of people. I mean, not good that anybody died, but hey. All right, so on slides 3 and 4, this gives you a little bit of a background to the Boston Massacre, although you just watched a video on it as well. If you can't see it very well, remember you guys can just zoom in on it using that, or you can read. So we're looking at kind of tensions are high. You'll read through here each of these quotes. So we'll start quote 1, which is James Woodall. Based on what he says here, you're going to decide if he were to blame somebody for this, would he blame a colonist or a soldier? So if you think a colonist, you'll just write colonist in here. If you think he blames the soldiers, you'll write soldiers. And then you'll just pick the part of the quote that kind of makes you believe he would say one way or the other. Okay, so what does he say that actually backs up the claim that you think, he would blame the colonists or he would blame the soldiers? Okay, so only soldier, you don't have to have like a person he blames it on. You can just put colonists or soldiers. All right, so you do that for each of the 7. And then here, based on all the information, and it is limited information, we'll be, getting into this more after break. But based on what you do know, what do you think actually happened? You don't have to answer from your colonist point of view. You can just answer like you as, a person, like a historian looking back at time. What do you think happened? All right. So that is how you'll do that. When you're done, you can turn it in. And we will talk about this more on Tuesday.